be able to do that. Going back to the investing in Manhattan, if you wanted to invest in a property in Manhattan tomorrow, or you were recommending someone and they hadn't done that before, what type of property would you be looking for? And let's say that at the lower end of the price spectrum, what sort of things would you look for in a property?
Well, at a high level, it's a condo versus a co-op, because these are the apartments where you can buy. You want a condo because a condo allows you to rent out whenever you want, and a condo doesn't require board approval. So as an investor, you have to buy a condo. Okay, so after you have decided on buying a condo, which is only 10% of the inventory, then there are three things to look at. One is the location. Number two is the building. The building has to be a high demand building. So just because it's in a certain location doesn't mean that all the buildings are good in that location. It's also building by building. So it has to be a high demand building, meaning you look at the number of sale listings, number of rental listings, how much they're asking for rent and for sale. You'll be able to tell if it's a high demand building. Okay, and then you have decided on the building. The third thing is that you need to select the apartment line. Now, Manhattan is a situation where you have one building next to another, no gap. Okay, so for each building, there's a preferred exposure. For example, facing north, you may be looking at a park, but there's not going to be a view on the east and on the west because it's next to other buildings. But facing south, you are staring at the back of the building behind you. Right, so for every building there's a preferred exposure, and you want to get the preferred exposure of the building. You may be in a great building, high demand and all that, but if you are staring at another apartment, then it's not that great, right? Because when you're renting out, the tenants are going to say, oh, I'm going to be looking at this apartment the whole time, right? And when they're selling, the buyer is going to think the same also.
So you spoke a little bit about, I remember one of the things that you also mentioned to me relating to location is things like being close to the subway lines, maybe being, if it's a residential area like Tribeca and West Village, having restaurants and so forth nearby, maybe having supermarkets nearby.
Yeah, being close to subways is important because 90% of people in Manhattan do not own a car. So we travel by subway or by cabs and Ubers. When people go to work, it's usually by subway. The reason is that it's a lot more predictable. If you call an Uber or a cab, there's going to be traffic. It's a lot less predictable. So after, people who just moved to Manhattan, they may be using an Uber or cab initially, but after a while, they're going to realize that it's a lot more efficient by subway. So close to the subway is important. Close to the grocery store is important. For example, close to Whole Foods is important because otherwise you would have to carry your grocery and walk for, let's say, 15-20 minutes, versus if you're close to a Whole Foods, then it may be across the street or across 5 streets. Makes it a lot more convenient. And of course, having restaurants is what makes an area desirable, because it's one of the things why people love Manhattan, right? It's the diversity, and that diversity includes the diversity of food and cuisines, because ultimately that's entertainment.